we have to get back to work. Our people want to work. They want to go back. They have to go back. And we're going to be talking about dates. We're going to be talking with a lot of great professionals. But this is a country that was built on getting it done. And our people want to go back to work. I'm hearing it loud and clear from everybody. So we'll see what happens. We're going to have a lot more information early next week, and we'll be reporting that back. But I just want to leave it with you. We have to go back. This is the United States of America. They don't want to sit around and wait, and they'll be practicing. And by the way, a lot of people misinterpret when I say go back. They're going to be practicing as much as you can, social distancing and washing your hands and not shaking hands and all of the things that we talk about so much. But they have to go back to work. Our country has to go back. Our country is based on that.
The president gets it. His critics are piling on him for this, getting so angry at him. It's absurd. He understands what's at stake here. There will not be an economy. Think of it this way, because the war analogy here can be very helpful. Obviously, war against a virus is not war against enemy human beings. But when you think of a war, what would happen if you destroyed your industrial base? We have the best military, the best fighting men and women on the planet, right? We know that. We do. We have the best military and obviously the most capable and powerful military in the history of the planet, which is a pretty extraordinary thing when you think about it, right? But if our military was told to go out and fight against an enemy without ammunition, without uniforms, without communications, medical equipment, etc., they wouldn't be able to win. Same is true of the economy that we have here and the industrial base that's dependent upon economic activity in defeating this virus. That's why they both have to happen. And some of us who have a better strategic sense have been saying this from the beginning, while other people are saying, you want grandma to die, which is such a horrible and offensive thing to say. But nonetheless, it is a combination of people being afraid, but also a combination of individuals who feel the need right now to establish that they're better than other people, the virtue signaling. And I have people who tell me, who aren't even in New York, that I don't have any skin in the game, blue check journos, that I don't understand the pain people are going through. Really? I'm the one who's getting notices all the time from my favorite restaurants, from friends of mine, that they're either out of work, that their business is shut down, that they can't go outside, that everyone's scared, they're all frightened for their parents. One thing about New York, if you're not here, you may not know, yeah, there's a fair number of New Yorkers who go down to Florida is the typical place that New Yorkers go to retire, but a lot of people, multi-generation families are here in this city. I'm here, my parents are here, my grandparents on one side were here, my great-grandparents, when they were alive, were here. So for a lot of New Yorkers, not only does this hit home for them because they're in quarantine, but they know they've got, even if they themselves are in lower risk cohorts in terms of their age, they know that there are other people that they care very much about who are here, care about more than anything, and they want to make sure that they're safe. So this is as real as it gets for all of us who are in the middle of this storm. The president understands that. He's a New Yorker, too. He has friends and loved ones and people that matter to him all across the country, in a sense, but here in New York City is his home, right? So he knows this, and I do think that he's trying to do as much as he can to get us back to work as quickly as he can. And this is just one of these times where we're going to have to listen to the voices that we know are coming at this in good faith and have a strategic mind, have vision for the future. Those of us that are pushing for more economic activity are looking ahead to what happens in 2 months, while also understanding what's going on over the next 2 weeks. I'm not dismissing at all, but you don't want to win this battle against the virus spike right now at the expense of losing the war of America still being a functioning economy that can support all the rest of life, including all the other health issues that come together. So I think I've made my case to you on this for now. We'll have to continue to see where the data leads us, what it says about, the future of where we'll be able to open up in this country. I think you're going to see this left to the states and to cities And that's going to be very interesting because there is already a dynamic that is forming right now of more rural and more red areas of the country that are less impacted by this, less affected, not unaffected, but less affected by the spread of the virus. And they're saying, let us get back to work. We understand social distancing. We understand the precautions to prevent this from spiraling out of control in our area too. Let us get back to work. Our hospitals aren't overwhelmed so that we can be a productive part of the economy and pushing the country forward while New York is stockpiling ventilators and trying to deal with the influx of patients it already has, while Los Angeles and New Orleans and Miami and other places are recognizing that they're also about to get hit pretty hard with this, right? So this debate will be very interesting, and you'll see state and local leadership matter, and to a lot of us, a lot more. Usually your state and local leadership, well, I guess it depends on where you are, but usually it's, you're worried about, are they taxing you? How's the school system? They don't generally make decisions that have power of life and death over you. You don't think of your governor. I know governors can give someone clemency who's on death row for state charges, but you don't usually think of a governor as making life and death decisions. If you did, I don't think I'd live in New York. I'd probably move to Texas, which maybe this is another moment where I realize, Buck, it's time to move to Texas. You folks in Austin, KLBJ, do you guys have some room for a good patriot, served his country in the past and wants to come hang out with some folks? There's a whole bunch of places. Denver. What about Denver? I love Denver. Maybe you got room for me. I know that's not a particularly conservative city, but I hear wonderful things about it, and we've obviously got a great group of people listening to us in the Denver area. Team Buck Denver is going strong. So maybe that's where we got to, I don't know, producer Mark, we might have to bust out a map and start thinking about what the escape hatch is from NYC.
You already know my thoughts.
Yeah,
anywhere without state income tax. Florida,
yeah. Well, Florida, Texas, that works. I think Tennessee also doesn't have. I was in Nashville for a weekend. I love that place.
There's Premier Studios in Nashville.
We got a lot of studios in Nashville, and we're gonna have a lot. I think there's gonna be a whole lot more development of all kinds going on there. So you're going to see some differences at the state level and how this plays out. Governor Cuomo, who's been getting a lot of attention for his daily briefings, mostly for his demeanor in them and for the lack of the petty garbage. I mean, de Blasio, as I've been saying, is just, oh my gosh, we're all going to die. I mean, de Blasio is horrible. He's absolutely horrible. Cuomo has been like, look, we're on it. We're dealing with it. We'll do our best. He's kind of a little more, he's been more even keeled about it, as I've been saying. He's done a good job for what's going on here. And he's under a lot of stress. It's real. Okay. He's a New Yorker. He understands. Here's what he says about because I want to talk about this bill. I don't want to spend too much time on it because we kind of know a lot of what's going on here. It's the usual Washington shenanigans. Here's what he's saying. Play clip 6.
The congressional action, in my opinion, simply failed to address the governmental need. I spoke to all the officials involved. I spoke to our House delegation. I spoke to our senators. And I believe what they did failed to meet the governmental need. I'm disappointed. I said I was disappointed. I find it irresponsible. I find it reckless. Emotion is a luxury, and we don't have the luxury at this time of being emotional about what they did. When this is over, I promise you I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. But I would say to them today, this is an extraordinary time in this nation, and it's an extraordinary time for government. This was the time to put politics aside and partisanship aside. This is the time for governmental leaders to stop making excuses and just do your job.
Okay, here's what's really going on. And some of that, just do your job. Don't make excuses. Okay, well, we expect that's what people will say about this. But here's what's really going on. States are I think a lot of states have balanced budget, are supposed to have balanced budgets under state law. I don't know how many, but I do think there are a number of them that do. As we know, the state and federal income tax day has been pushed back to, I believe it's for all states too. Income tax day has been pushed back to July 15th, which means what happens to states and their budgets? States a lot of them rely, on property taxes, but also on sales tax, tax of goods and transactions. And guess what? They're looking at massive shortfalls now. And a state like New York in particular is going to have huge shortfalls. I'm assuming there'll be others as well. Here's what I know. People are listening to this. You're in Texas. You're in North Carolina. You're in Minnesota. You're in Indiana. You're in, California is going to have the same problems. But you're in some places that probably aren't going to get hit as badly with this problem. But here's what's going to happen, right? When you have this perception of the federal government dumping loads of cash out of helicopters onto people, and in a sense, that is what is going on, and that is necessary. People that lost their jobs because the government said you don't have a job anymore because of a disease that has nothing to do with you, the government's got to take care of those people, right? It'd be the same way that, if we got invaded by a foreign power and the government had to spend a whole lot of money and send a Black Hawk and a whole bunch of highly trained SEALs or something to go get you because the bad guys had captured you, that's what government does. So that's why we pay taxes, right? That's why we have these systems in place. So what we're going to see, though, is this dumping cash mentality, which is clearly evident in the way that this bill has gone. And as I go to air, Massey is still thinking about, I think, slowing down this process because he's upset about it. And people are saying, is it a conservative principled stand? No, I'm sorry. I don't think, in my opinion, if you want to know, Congressman Massey of Kentucky is saying that he might insist on a quorum, and that basically would slow the whole process down to make a point here that there's too much pork in this. In my opinion, you don't lecture somebody on the Constitution while their house is burning down, and that's what's going on right now. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be critical of what's happened. I'm critical of it. I think Massey should be critical, but I don't think that I think it's counterproductive to slow down in any way. People are desperate for cash now. They need that money now. And they're going to be making decisions, businesses and individuals will be making decisions based upon what is in their bank account next week when rent is due. So to say, let's sort of wait and we'll see, and no, I'm sorry, that is not something that I can, I can get behind. And also, well, we'll get into some of the other criticism that's out there about this, but it's shocking and it's not shocking, right? I mean, as a human being, you're like, how could anybody use this moment for the exploitative means that they are? But you also know that this is the way our government functions now. Things only really seem to get done in a crisis. Things only seem to get done when it shouldn't be about politics. That's when it's really about politics. That's what you call a conundrum. Here is Mnuchin telling us that the checks are going to go out. Here's what he says. Secretary of the Treasury, play 9.
And I want to thank the Senate for their swift action. People literally worked round the clock for 5 days, and the President and I and others couldn't be more pleased with the absolute unanimous support on a bipartisan basis to get this done. In regards to the checks, I announced yesterday from the White House press conference, first of all, most of these will be direct deposits, so we call them checks in the mail, but most of them will be direct deposits. It'll be within 3 weeks. We are determined to get money in people's pocket immediately. So that will be within 3 weeks.
Seems pretty straightforward, right? What are the objections that Democrats had? Remember when Pelosi was slowing the whole thing up? We'll need to get to that.
We did jujitsu on it, that it went from a corporate first proposal that the Republicans put forth in the Senate to a workers first, Democratic workers first legislation. But let's first back up. As I was coming here, I saw that nearly 1,000 deaths in the United States, 900 yesterday, so I don't know what the number is today, but they're saying nearly 1,000 deaths in our country. Tens of thousands of people we have tens of thousands of cases. This is a pandemic that we haven't even seen for over 100 years in our country. It's really such a tragedy. So we had to take important action. We had to take action, though, that puts families first and workers first. And that's what we did when we did our first legislation. The first two bills were about addressing the emergency directly.
She is shameless, isn't she? Just shameless. With the jujitsu. Nancy Pelosi jujitsu. Now, that would be even more fun to watch than a Ruth Bader Ginsburg super fierce workout with kettlebells. But Pelosi is convinced that she got something here. I'm not really sure what she thinks she got other than repudiation. People saying, what the heck are you thinking? This is a crisis. Time is of the essence. We absolutely, positively cannot delay this anymore. That's where everybody else is on this. But Nancy Pelosi, meanwhile, is playing all these nonsense games. Now, one point here that I would make: the jobless numbers are going to keep going up. Mnuchin, who is smart, I mean, he's like Goldman Sachs lobbyist in chief at the Treasury Department, but he's smart, and he's saying that we can handle this jobless thing in the short term, which has been what I have been saying for the last week, despite all the leftists claiming that I want to throw old people off of cliffs. We cannot sustain this in the long term. Here is Mnuchin on that one. Play 10.
We knew the jobless claims number was not going to be a good one, but I am curious as to what your thoughts were when you saw that 3.283 million number.
To be honest with you, I just think these numbers right now are not relevant. And, whether they're bigger or smaller in the short term, obviously there are people who have jobless claims. And again, the good thing about this bill is the president is protecting those people. So, now with these plans, small businesses hopefully will be able to hire back a lot of those people. Last week, they didn't know if they had protections. They didn't have any cash. They had no choice. Now with this bill passed by Congress, there are protections. And as I said, hopefully those workers will be rehired. But between these three programs, it protects all of American workers. And by the way, lots of big companies do continue to hire for obviously grocery stores, pharmacies, delivery services. These companies are on overtime. So I know they're hiring people as fast as they can.
Let's hope that he's right. I mean, I've been saying that the unemployment number is only going to go up, and I think I'm right. But he's saying that because of this, I don't think it's a stimulus bill. We should call it a rescue. It's a rescue bill. It's not a stimulus bill. Because of this rescue bill, there may be some decisions made by businesses to keep people on payroll. Maybe. We'll have to see. But remember, there's going to be a lot of other businesses that are concerned and are going to continue to shed jobs, right? That this is only going to get worse. And then you get into, well, how does this whole thing get really scary? Even if they're doing the right thing by trying to help in this way? Systemic financial problems, which no one wants to talk about right now, but they are there.
What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful. The greed of that fight is wrong for crumbs for our families. And the option that we have is to either let them suffer with nothing or to allow this greed and billions of dollars, which will be leveraged into trillions of dollars, to contribute to the largest income inequality gap in our future. There should be shame about what was fought for in this bill and the choices that we have to make.
I mean, AOC is a moron. All you have to do is listen to that one clip, never mind all the others. And she's just, it's really to the detriment of the Democrat voters of Queens that she represents them. And they, I guess they kind of, in that regard, they traded Crowley for AOC. And I don't know how they could view this as a trade up, but maybe they do. I don't know. But here's the problem with AOC throwing what it really sounds like a tantrum about corporate interests and how this is all for the corporations. And this is just the usual talking points for her. She always says the same things about the big bad corporations. Here was the vote in the Senate on this one. Play clip 11, please.
We passed this legislation last night 96-0. The Senate can barely even rename a post office 96-0, much less pass a $2 trillion emergency package. So I think it's regrettable that Nancy Pelosi intervened in our bipartisan negotiations last weekend, and now we've lost almost a week's worth of time of getting this desperately needed aid into the hands of America's families and businesses. But I'm confident the House of Representatives will pass it tomorrow, the president will sign it, and then our government will be moving as quickly as possible to get this aid into the hands of families and businesses.
96-0. How could we be hearing about the big, bad, mean Republicans when every single Democrat in the Senate voted for this? 96-0, folks. And AOC thinks that this is some terrible... Look, there's pork in there. There's some things that shouldn't be in there. But to act like this is on the Republicans, this is just the nature of our politics right now. And it's gross, but this is reality. But it's also not really a partisan issue. This is just a Washington issue. They see an opportunity to write a $25 million check for the Kennedy Center, and they took it. They saw an opportunity to dramatically expand a lot of aspects of government that aren't really about this. There's a huge expansion of food stamps, different welfare programs. Democrats got a lot in this that they'll say is all about coronavirus, but these are things that they just want to do anyway. This is just another moment where there's some people that they really only have one speed. I mean, AOC, it's the same class warfare, inequality, nonsense all the time. It doesn't matter what the topic is or what's happening. She's going to say more or less the same stuff. And Pelosi's really not any better. I mean, she's really just blathering on about nonsense. And Congressman McCarthy pointed out that her whole thing, she's just trying to save face now, and it's obvious. And I'm not going to let her do it without taking some heat, because she deserves a lot more than just heat. She deserves to be, voted out of office, but that's not going to happen. She represents the lunatic liberals of Marin County, San Francisco. Incredibly wealthy. It's like, it's the San Francisco equivalent of Malibu, like ultra rich, right by the ocean. That's Nancy Pelosi's district. Yeah, she's not getting voted out anytime soon. It's also, I think, where they have one of those clusters where people don't vaccinate particularly. Like, it's one of those it is. It's a side note. But here's Representative McCarthy. Play clip 22.
The Speaker herself just said every day, every week that is wasted on not taking this seriously is a problem. I could not agree more. And yet for days, Democrats stalled this bill. How many people were laid off as the Democrats fought to change the election law or implement the Green New Deal? How many parents lost sleep wondering how they were going to make the payments in the next month? How many small businesses sat around a kitchen table and had to make that decision they never had to before about laying their employees off that are like family? A few minutes ago, the Speaker stood at this podium and claimed that House Democrats did what she called a jiu-jitsu to change the bill. That is an outright lie. The fundamental portions of this bill has not changed since Sunday. 4 months for unemployment was already decided on Sunday. The grant to keep employees hired on small business was already decided on Sunday.
Yeah, already decided. Pelosi swooped in and tried to leverage the moment for her own benefit and for her narrow parochial political interests, and it failed. And now she's saying that she did something just to walk away from this. Everyone's looking at her like, no, you didn't. We know that she didn't, but she's such a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire, Pelosi. That is where she is on this. So it is unsurprising, but nonetheless, that's the reality of it. I was talking before about the state versus local issue, and there is going to be, I think, some accountability for people who aren't used to making really big decisions in political office, for mayors, for governors. They're being forced to make decisions here where people's lives are in the balance, the economy is in the balance of their state. And I mean, here's the mayor of New Orleans speaking about how it's Trump's fault that Mardi Gras was not canceled due to coronavirus. Play 13.
But you're saying no one from the federal government came to you and urged you to to at least cancel or postpone Mardi Gras.
That's absolutely correct. And not only that, it was backed up with the response of our national leader. When it's not taken seriously at the federal level, it's very difficult to transcend down to the local level in making these decisions.
Yes, that's right. Everyone who was supposed to be making these decisions to protect the people of their city or their state, the people that got this wrong, and New Orleans is clearly getting hit very badly, in part because of all the travel to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. But they got this wrong, and now they're going to turn around, they're going to blame the federal government and say that it wasn't being taken seriously by the federal government. Look, we also have, fortunately, the internet now, and so we know what different states. Now, I don't have this for you for Mardi Gras. I mean, for New Orleans, which, and I love New Orleans. But that's another place. Producer Mark, a part of the NYC escape plan. I don't know what the state tax is in Louisiana. I'm sure it's not that high. I love New Orleans. Want to get back there as soon as I can. But the New York City health commissioner, I don't have the New Orleans health commissioner for the first week of February. This is a person at the city level, right, who's obviously a Democrat. I mean, everybody in all these major cities is pretty much a Democrat. I mean, the Democrat government is city government now. There's almost no differentiation. And, I mean, that's not true everywhere, but in most places you're going to find the mayors of big cities I'm talking about now. It doesn't, Fort Wayne, Indiana, I love you guys in Whoa land, but, you're kind of an outlier here. I think maybe you're talking about 50 to 100,000 people in a city. Sure, then maybe you have a Republican. But anything that's 500,000 plus, 250,000 plus, you're probably looking at an overwhelming majority of Democrats who are calling the shots for these cities. And, I mean, certainly the case in New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami, Chicago, New Orleans, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. I mean, Seattle. I mean, find me a city, or San Diego. I mean, anyway. Here's the New York City health commissioner, though, the first week of February on. Now, this is a person. Remember, this is not just a politician. This is someone whose job is only to keep people healthy and safe in New York City, safe from disease, safe from things like this pandemic. Here was the public advice of the New York City health commissioner on February 7th. Play it.
The important thing for New Yorkers to know is that in the city currently, their risk is low and our city preparedness is high. And so we know that this virus can be transmitted from one individual to another, but that it's typically people who live together, that there's no risk at this point in time, we're always learning more, about having it be transmitted in casual contact, right? So we're telling New Yorkers, go about your lives, take the subway, go out, enjoy life, but practice everyday precaution.
That's right. The health commissioner of New York a month ago said the following: take the subway, go out, enjoy life. No real risk of casual transmission of this. So when people, this is part of my thing this week, you have a lot of folks out there that are yelling, listen to the experts, listen to the experts. Really? There are people who got sick and died in the last month because they listened to experts like this person. That's just reality. So it's not as easy as just repeating that mantra and all of a sudden all other points of view, all other ways of looking at this just fade away into nothing. It's not that straightforward, folks, as we all know. So we'll see what ends up happening with the county by county, state by state approach. I think the president's probably going to announce something pretty substantial on that on Monday. But now we're going to really see it. And I think this is going to be more of a test of federalism than we've had in this country in a long time. Because states that handle this well, people are going to say, maybe it's time to go check that place out. States that are crushed by this, there's going to be a lot of anger and a lot of blame at state and local government. And there are going to be a lot of Democrats who are in charge of these areas. Whether it's fair or not that they get blamed, they are going to get blamed. I mean, de Blasio, I think in part, is running around screaming about how everything's on fire and we're all going to die, just so that, when finally people say, wow, you handled this really badly, he's just going to say, I was warning everybody and I was the one saying it was going to be terrible. So, but I also think that we're going to hit a peak in a couple of weeks, but it's going to be less catastrophic than the predictions were last week. That's I wouldn't say prediction, that's my hope. And I'm confident in my hope at this point.
Hi folks, I want to bring you up to speed with something that's happening today, which is that I've developed mild symptoms of the coronavirus. That's to say, a temperature and a persistent cough. And on the advice of the chief medical officer, I've taken a test that has come out positive. So I am working from home, I'm self-isolating, and that's entirely the right thing to do. But be in no doubt that I can continue, thanks to the wizardry of modern technology, to communicate with all my top team to lead the national fight back against coronavirus.
The Prime Minister of Great Britain, Prime Minister of the UK, he has coronavirus. That's going to be one of those ones where you say, wow, this really is all over the place, isn't it? I think the wife of Justin Trudeau has coronavirus now as well. I mean, Tom Hanks.
That was like a week or two ago, yeah.
Yeah, that was a week or two ago. Tom Hanks has coronavirus. He seems to be doing fine. I saw some update from him. What other famous people right now have coronavirus?
There were a couple
weird,
NBA players.
Like some C-level, celebrities almost announce it like a little too, they're like almost excited to it. It's a little weird with some of the younger. I've seen some people that are like, influencers that are like, ooh, I have coronavirus. Like, that's, we wish you all the best, but this is it's not a competition to see who can get this thing the fastest. There have been some weird posts that I've seen on this one, and never mind the ones of people like licking toilet seats. And did you see that, by the way? That guy got sick.
Yeah, he has coronavirus. Disgusting.
He has coronavirus. What a, people.
Why lick a toilet in general? Never mind in these times.
Yeah, dude, I don't even know, man. I was one of those people that for years and years, if I had to use a toilet that wasn't in my home, I used one of those, like, I would build a little, a little paper towels, a little paper seat for myself,
Oh, I won't go outside of the house.
Yeah. You're one of those.
I refuse.
You're like that guy from American Pie who won't go outside the home. Oh my
I'm the
God,
type of person
funny.
who asked the leasing office at his new apartment, "Do you guys change the toilet seat before I move in?"
That's a good call, by the way,
Yeah.
because a lot of places they'll get cheap on that one, and they won't. You want a fresh toilet seat when you move into an apartment where someone else has lived. But yeah, there's celebrities. Yeah, I know some NBA players, and look, what ended up happening there, why people got tests early who are celebrities, is because they have money and access, and they went to private testing facilities and said, what's it going to cost? And they, this is the way the world works, unfortunately. So people were rightly upset about that, but there was no surprise there, really. I mean, that's the way these things are going to happen. The same way that you have now hoarding of chloroquine, not chloroquine phosphate, which is fish tank cleaner, which will kill you. As everybody already knows now, despite the media saying Trump told them to drink. No, he did not. But there's hoarding of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, the anti-malaria drug that we're not going to know if that really works probably, I guess, for another week or two. They are using it in New York, but the therapy round of it must be at least a week to 10 days before you have any sense of how effective it is. So, but doctors are hoarding that, and people are hoarding it, and it is used for other conditions. I think it's used for lupus, and there are I think there's some autoimmune situations where you can use chloroquine to suppress it. So that's something you're seeing going on right now. And then you also have people who have tried to get and just hold one, like in their closet or something, a respirator for themselves, or ventilator rather. The ventilator is the machine that breathes for you when you can't breathe. Trump, speaking on that, I did see that Trump was not happy with, we've been talking about the Defense Production Act and General Motors and what's going on there. Trump is very displeased with the speed of General Motors on one. Here's what he said. General Motors must immediately open their stupidly abandoned Lordstown plant in Ohio or some other plant and start making ventilators now, all caps. When the Trumpster puts it in all caps, he's for real. Ford, get going on ventilators fast. So the president's saying, hey, we've been telling people, to have a, open mind about working with the private sector without government mandate, just the private sector stepping up. It's starting to sound like the president may have to say, okay, they're going to get paid, right? This is an appropriation of property without compensation, but under the Defense Production Act, you're going to make ventilators and you're going to make them now, right now. Not going to finish a line of cars, not going to, we'll have to see how these companies have stepped up. A lot of people I know, and, could look conservatives. We understand that the free market and private industry is where prosperity comes from. So I totally agree and understand with that point of view. But we've been saying the private sector is stepping up with some of these companies. We're going to expect some results here soon. I better see some General Motors ventilators, getting shipped across the country by the thousands this week.